Magical creatures, long-awaited reprints, and a game in a crate. Hello, I'm Matthew, and welcome to your board game news. So, Firefly the board game is back 10 years after its original release with a Game Found campaign that's running right now for Firefly the game 10th Anniversary Collector's Edition. This new edition has not only the base game and every expansion ever released, but also has the brand new Still Flying expansion, as well as hand-painted deluxe upgrades, a neoprene mat, and it all fits inside one single crate. It's like when chicken moved out of boxes into buckets. The crate generation of board games is upon us. In Firefly from Gale Force 9, 1 to 10 players begin with a ship and travel from planet to planet, hiring crew, purchasing ship upgrades, and picking up cargo to deliver. But some crew and cargo are illegal and can be confiscated if your ship is boarded by an Alliance vessel. And travelling from planet to planet requires turning over full burn cards. Most do nothing, but you can also encounter an Alliance ship, have a breakdown, or even run into Reavers. Completing jobs gets you cash, and the first player to complete the story goals win. This looks pretty great for both people who wanted to jump into the deep end, as well as those who already own Firefly, as there's a pledge level for upgrades and new stuff, which is something I always like to see. Something else I always like to see is that this episode is made possible in part by the Ghost Spider sleeves and the Spider Sleeveverse from Upper Deck. These new Ghost Spider sleeves swing into game night to protect your deck. Expand your TCGs to the Spider Sleeveverse with Spider-Man and Venom Carnage card sleeves, or if you're not a webhead, check out Upper Deck's wide collection of different Marvel character sleeves. This pack contains 65 card sleeves, which are 67 by 92 millimeters for all your standard size cards, and these sleeves are non-game specific and can be used with any game. Follow the link in this video's description to find these Ultra Pro Marvel character sleeves featuring the Spider-Verse right here on the web at upperdeckstore.com. Challengers 2 has been announced by Z-Man Games with what has to be the most eyebrow-raising placement of an exclamation mark in board games since Clank in Space. But hot off the heels of the Spiel des Jahres nomination, Challengers 2 is upon us with more of its interactive deck management tournament gameplay for 1 to 8 players, where you meet another opponent every round. It looks as though Challengers 2 is a standalone expansion that can also be mixed with the original Challengers to create new set combinations, and has the added twist of 16 trainer cards that give each player a unique power. Some give you bonuses when defending, some when you're on the offense, and the others can extend your bench or even let you rearrange your deck. As in the original, in the deck phase, you choose new members and add them to your deck. There's dozens of characters with 40 effects, which might consist of a wizard, an alien, a cat, a gangster, a kraken. There's lots of stuff in there. And then in the match phase, you need to stay in possession of the flag to win. Getting the most fans and trophies qualifies you for the final to hopefully go on for the win late this year when it's released. I'm a big Glenn Drover fan. Let it be known. Both his games, and I met him once and he was nice, which is always a bonus. So I'm always interested in his and his company Forbidden Games' releases. Enter Fairies and Magical Creatures, which is a Kickstarter running right now, described as a mythical game where you learn about and collect fairies from 5 unique folk. Collect fairies, plant gardens, build fairy homes, and be the first mortal to join the fairy realm, which is a lifelong goal I've always had myself. We will be building our decks by drafting unique fairy cards to gain kinship with the fairies so that we can build our ultimate fairy gardens out of polyomino tiles. The action you choose on your turn is also the action everyone else must follow, as you score points in a bunch of different ways via your cards, area control, and tile placement in your garden. Oh, and it's got the same artist as Raccoon Tycoon, which I love. Space Cowboys and designer Phil Walker Harding have announced the 1 to 4 player spellbook, where we are tasked to become the greatest wizard, also to cast Knight of the Round 12 times in a row with Mime. No, that's a different materia. I recognise that. In spellbook, each player, accompanied by a familiar of course, Mine would be a small skunk, possesses a grimoire, and the game provides pre-drawn spell sets for use in the early rounds, but soon players start drawing spells randomly or create their own spell combinations that are common to all players, and each spell combination gives an effect that lasts the rest of the game. The more ingenious the combination, the more powerful the effect, with more than 2,100 spell combinations being possible. The game ends as soon as the Magician's Grimoire is complete or a familiar is fully fed, and also has a solo mode, and this all just sounds cool to me. I like spells. This one releases later this year. You know, I've noticed how much artwork has driven much of today's news items, and the wonderful player Galactic Cruise is no different. This one is from Kinson Key Games, and the box cover's by Ian O'Toole, which is fantastic. As the first company to offer extended stay space vacations, we're excited to have you working for us. I'd have called them spacecations, but that's just me. We play as supervisors who are expected to not only build these shuttles and satisfy our guests, but also to help the company thrive by enhancing our company's network, inventing new technologies, and growing our workforce as we aim to win by becoming CEO of the company. Like how I want to one day oust the other members of Watch It Played. Together we can do it. On your turn, it looks like you will either place a worker to take 2 actions in the ever-expanding network, launch a shuttle, send one of your workers to space as a pilot, you're not just... or recall your Earthbound workers to collect funding bonuses, acquire blueprints, constructing shuttles, attracting guests, and building developments which are connections between locations and increase action selection throughout the game. You will also be affecting resource markets and, of course, compete with your fellow supervisors to complete company goals. Sounds like a grand thematic Euro to me, and that's no bad thing at all, as this one I believe is going to Kickstarter later this year. We have some more quickfire news items as well, starting with the 1 to 4 player Mycelia, a deck building game where you need the support of mysterious forest dwellers to improve your deck, develop new and better skills, and bring the sacred dewdrops from the forest to the Shrine of Life in order to receive the forest goddess's support later this year, coming from Ravensburger. Inside Up Games, the makers of the highly popular Earth, I've lived here my whole life, have announced the 2 to 5 player Perch coming to Kickstarter, where players fight for control of locations by commanding birds of their own and other players' flocks. You'll earn points and command woodland creatures by having the most birds on a location, pushing your foes off the perch, by each round adding birds into a shared bag, and players draw birds of their own to stack on location tiles, each of which will have variable points for majorities and sometimes grant players a unique ability. And Gods of Rome is one of a host of new titles coming from Pythagoras. This one caught my eye simply because I like Roman-themed games. And here the gods are divided. Rome has lost its way, and we must restore its glory. Gods of Rome is a competitive area control and worker placement game for 2 to 4 players who each choose a tribe at the start of the game and must lead the tribe to gain the god's favour by visiting a god to gain blessing tokens, which allow you to take enhanced actions later in the game, activating a card, which is how you take those actions, and of course, score points by advancing on the victory track depending on which territories you control. And there's also special objectives that change the scoring of territories from game to game. This looks great. I'm looking forward to it later this year. But for something I can play right now, once I've done filming this, let's check in with the latest releases available to play on Board Game Arena, who sponsored this segment. There's a batch of new games available, starting with Spiel des Jahres nominated Challengers, a deck management game for 1 to 8 players that plays quickly regardless of player count. Modify your deck, then capture the flag with a tournament gameplay style every round. You meet a new opponent from among the 75 distinct characters, making each game a unique experience. But also now available on Board Game Arena are Tiwanaku, Anachrony, Line It, Mind Up, and Ilawa. We'll add links down in this video's description to find, learn, and play each of these new releases on Board Game Arena. Winning Move Games have announced the 2 to 4 player Monopoly Scrabble that combines elements of both Monopoly and Scrabble. I'd have called it Scrambopoly. Anyone else? But in it, players use letter tiles to build words, then moving around the game board based on their score. If you build a word on a premium space, you immediately claim a property with, of course, custom community chest and chance cards, keeping things moving at a promised fast pace until the final letter tile has been played down, where whoever has the highest total of cash and property values wins. I have to try this. We should stream it on our Twitch channel. We have a Twitch channel where we stream games. Restoration Games are restoring, as is their right, crossbows and catapults via Kickstarter campaign that's running again right now. Originally from 1983, then re-implemented by Battleground crossbow and catapults in 2007, this restored version will be released next year. So it looks like there are two versions. There's Castle Battle and Fortress War that offer different amounts of things to smash with re-engineered crossbows and catapults, which don't need elastic bands and allow for more skill and finesse when destroying your opponent's castle, which now includes a bunch of varied pieces for more varied builds, including special structures like a jail, turret and a sanctuary, all made out of blocks that fit together, but not so well that you can't blow them up. There's new weapons like a trebuchet and ballista, which sounds good to me, and I'm hoping a bunch of spare ammunition for when it goes flying under a fridge or through an open window. But I trust Restoration Games do a great job, and this looks like a nostalgia-fueled fun time to me, so I can't wait to play it. But this isn't the last stop on the Watch It Play train. Oh no! Join Paula for the games on our own personal radar this month, and I'll see you over there.